Hello there, I'm Rafael di Furia, back at it again on another Friday night. And this Friday night, I wanted to talk a bit about some expectations that I personally had about Italy before coming here, and some that I know are along the lines of what many people think about before they come here to Italy. And this is going to be 5 things that I want to talk about in this video, not in any kind of particular order. But before we get too much deeper into this video, if you would like to see more content like this about moving to Italy, Italian dual citizenship, and living life abroad, be sure that you're subscribed to this channel, and also to give the video a like because it very much does help out the channel. And of course, as always, a huge thank you to those of you who've been helping to make these videos possible through Patreon and for purchasing shirts, baby onesies, mugs, and more, and cell phone cases, as well as all different kinds of stocking stuffers through rafaeldifuria.com/NYAG gear. Some great gifts for those of you who are thinking about the holiday season and the special people in your life. And the first thing that I want to talk about tonight, again, this is in no particular order, but a lot of people have the preconception about Italy that it is warm and sunny all year round, and some places even get about 300 days of sun per year. But that doesn't mean that every sunny day is a nice warm day. There are some parts of the country that get bitter cold, and maybe not as bitter cold as some parts of Northern Europe and other countries around the globe that are a little bit further north. But even in some places that are known to be quite warm, like Sicily, can see snow. So that's just one thing to keep in mind, is that walking around in winter, it is not uncommon to see people here bundled up with big scarves and puffy jackets. Puffy jacket season here is definitely a thing. And even to keep in mind, I'm not the furthest north that you can get in the country. And last year I made a video outside about retiring to Italy. And let me just show you the intro of that, just to give you an idea of what kind of weather Italy can see.
And welcome back to Moscow, Finland, Sweden, Alaska.
One thing also that I expected before I moved to Italy, and before I really got a good feeling about how things were here, even as a kid visiting the country, I thought that all food was going to be fantastic, amazing, nothing bad, or nothing that would be strange and a little unappealing. But there are those things, and of course, if you don't find something appealing, you don't have to eat it. But there are certain things around the country that really took me off guard. And for a lot of people, especially from North America, there are going to be some things here that you might see that will be a little odd to you. Some congealed meats in some places, or even salted dried cod that comes in like an oil and is semi-congealed, may be a little gross to some of you. It wouldn't be in that form, but not like this in the oil and kind of the little bits that you can kind of see. Just think mushy white fish, kind of, not mushy, but like little bits and pieces of white fish that just in an oil, it just doesn't look all that appetizing. And I do enjoy salted dried cod after it's been rehydrated and deep fried. It is amazing. It is so delicious. But there are other things in Italy that do catch people off guard, like horse meat, horse steaks, shredded horse meat, or something that I have talked about on the channel here before, my only traumatizing experience of eating pizza. The time that I accidentally ordered shredded horse on a pizza. I didn't realize that's what I had ordered, and by the time I finally realized what it was, it's not that it tasted bad, it just had a little bit of an odd flavor. And just as somebody who rode horses growing up, like, yeah, not my thing. Definitely not my thing. But I know there are a lot of people here in Italy who absolutely love it, and it's something that they grew up on. But for some of us coming from other places, horses are something that you ride, not that you eat. And I'm not saying it's bad. It's just a cultural difference. I have heard about a couple small villages in the country where they do have dishes that they are known for that may or may not involve dog or cat, but that's something I haven't been able to confirm and could be a rumor, but I could almost believe that in some places that were historically poor, that maybe that could be possible. But it's not going to be something that you run into if you're coming to Italy to live here or if you're on a vacation. But if you're in the north of Italy, you may come across horse meat. And the third point I want to talk about, there are a lot of people throughout my life growing up that said they thought that Italy is dangerous. Or there are a lot of people that I see online asking, is Italy dangerous? Is it a safe place to be? And I would say overall it is, but people do have a very bad or negative image of Italy that isn't necessarily what actually is here and what people see and what people experience. Just like anywhere on earth, you have places that you would go to and places that you wouldn't want to go to. Maybe parts of a city that you wouldn't feel safe in, or parts of a country or parts of a region that you might think you wouldn't necessarily be so attracted to go to just because of security concerns. Or walking around any large European city, any city anywhere, it's always a good idea to keep an eye on your belongings. Keep your hands close to your pockets. Or if you carry a purse or a backpack or a shoulder bag, it's a good idea to make sure you know what's going on. However, I personally have had an experience that I would say made me feel uncomfortable, where I actually was concerned that something could have happened. I was in Milan and I ended up being in this one touristy area on a day where there were no other tourists. I was there by myself. The weather wasn't that great. It was really cold out. And if you've been to Italy before, you will know that there are people who go and sell trinkets, various kinds of trinkets. I just happened to have an experience with some people that didn't seem to have the best of intentions. And I ended up being surrounded by this group of guys. They were shouting at me, trying to get me to give them money and to buy their knickknacks and whatever it was that I had no interest in. And this was in the middle of the city at one of the most major sites there. I had to run away from them, and they kept shouting at me and they chased after me for a little while. And looking back on that experience, I think that if I had been just a little bit slower, I would be telling a little bit of a different story and something a little bit more similar to another experience that I've talked about here on my channel, that an elderly relative of mine had in Milan. Also, this elderly relative of mine had just gone to go get some groceries, just a normal afternoon, no big deal or anything. Another one of these individuals happened to come up to her as well, asked for money, demanded money, didn't just ask for money, but really became irate, ended up pushing this woman down to the ground and looking like he was going to do something, but then she doesn't know what happened, but something changed. All she knew was that she was attacked, ended up on the ground, and she had some injuries from this experience. However, even with all of this said, I would not say this is a normal experience. And even for the neighborhoods that these events happened in Milan, this is unusual. But I would say that in general, I feel very safe in this country. Even last year when I was in Rome with my cousin, and I'll try to remember to put a card up in the corner to that video of my first time in Rome with my cousin, and we had an amazing experience. We really had a wonderful time. But we ended up actually being out very late at night. I don't think I got back to my hotel until maybe 3:30 or 4 in the morning. And we were roaming the streets of Rome. I would not recommend to walk around a city in the middle of the night, but I can't say I've ever been in a place where I felt that safe in the middle of the night, especially not in a city. And it was really such an amazing way to get to experience the city. It reminds me, what's that old black and white movie? Like one of those old, really sappy black and white movies. It was so cool to be able to get to experience Rome with nobody around and to see the beauty and not have all the tourists like crowding everything. Okay, we didn't go to all the sites, although we did walk by the Colosseum in the middle of the night, and that was beautiful. I posted a picture of that to my Instagram a while back of showing the Colosseum at night. Such a beautiful view at the night. But really, it was one of my favorite experiences I've ever had here in Italy. And again, I felt very safe during that whole experience. And this fourth idea on my list is kind of along the same lines and related to point 3 about security in Italy. But this is not necessarily so much about your self-security, your health and physically how you're doing. But another thing that I've heard a lot of people talking about throughout my life is about scams or getting taken advantage of in Italy, or even I've seen this a lot online. And I would say you have to be smart. You can't do dumb things. You can't put yourself into a situation where you're going to be taken advantage of. If you're in Rome, for example, and you see the people that are out there, the gladiators, trying to take pictures with you, don't take pictures with them. It's illegal, if I'm not mistaken. And even like if you see a Mickey Mouse, like a really ghetto looking Mickey Mouse, and somebody's trying to take your photo, don't give them your camera. They will hold it hostage and maybe even steal it. That's just not a great idea. Or if somebody comes up to you and offers to take your picture with your camera, be very careful who you hand something over to. Okay, fine. Every once in a while, like, it's not that bad, but you have to be super careful. Better to take a selfie than hand over your camera. Okay, it's not going to be as nice of a picture, but definitely no chances of somebody grabbing that from you and running off with that. I wouldn't say no chance, but a smaller chance of somebody running off with your camera than grabbing it out of your hand while you're taking a selfie. And yes, when you're in some tourist areas, you do see some of these things where people do try to take advantage of tourists, charging them more for a coffee, for food, or whatever it could be. And sometimes they do get away with that. But when you're living in Italy and actually here, that's something that you really don't see so much. It's not that common. Yes, it can happen from time to time, but I wouldn't say necessarily that it happens any more or less than any other place that I've ever lived in or been to. There are people that do try to take advantage of other people, and that's just the way that things happen in this world, unfortunately. If you are American or Canadian or from a country that's perceived to be in a better position than Italy, maybe you will find somebody who will try to take advantage of you, but don't take crap from anybody. Just stand your ground and don't let yourself be taken advantage of. And those situations will be much less likely to happen if you don't put yourself into those situations where that can happen. But also don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. And it is good to have an Italian friend who can help you with some things. If something does happen and maybe something doesn't go so much to plan. But also there are other times where it's not that you're being taken advantage of. It's just something that there could be a problem because not everything works perfectly. Even I've dealt with problems with my phone company. I thought they were taking advantage of me. I got a call from a call center in Romania about my phone here. And as far as I knew, I had an Italian company, but they happened to have call centers in Romania. And so I didn't know, is this a scam? Is this real? What's going on? Why do they have so much of my information? This is concerning. But then I went to the company store later on that day, and they confirmed the same information that the people from Romania were telling me. So there are those times where you have to know just how things work because things work a little bit differently here. But the fifth and final point is about the cost of living here. There are a lot of people who seem to be under the impression that the cost of living in Italy is very, very cheap, and they think that things here are really dirt cheap. But I wouldn't necessarily say that's the case. There are some things like fruits and vegetables and some breads and things like this, like food from the supermarket, that can be on the cheap side if you compare them to the United States or some other European countries. But there's been something that's been very interesting to me, that when I've had conversations from expats in Spain who've come to Italy and spent a bit of time here, they're always shocked by how, well, at least from their perspective, the things are very expensive here by comparison, whether it's something as simple as a beer or wine or getting food from the supermarket, or even things like clothing, jeans, hats, accessories, and so on. They've said that they felt like it was a lot less expensive in Spain than it was here. And even when I was in Spain earlier this year, I did notice a slight difference in some costs of some things, or even an evening out. An evening out in Italy can be on par with some other countries around Europe. Yes, it can be a lot cheaper depending on the country, but I wouldn't say that it's necessarily so cheap to go out here either. And even some Italian cities are among some of the most expensive to live in across Europe. But if you move outside of a city or to a smaller area, kind of maybe something along the lines of where I live, you can find that the cost of living can be a lot less than it would be in other places. But anyway, that is it for my list. But for those of you who have been to Italy, or for those of you who are living in Italy, what are some things that were different than what you expected? I'm very curious to hear about that. And for those of you who are not here in Italy or who have never been to Italy and who've watched this video, is there anything in this video that maybe sounds surprising to you? Or are there any things that you think about Italy that you want to know are true or not? Maybe I might be able to get to that in a future video. And of course, if you would like to see more content like this about moving to Italy, Italian dual citizenship, and living life abroad and living in Italy, be sure that you are subscribed to this channel. And if you could also give this video a like and share it with your friends, that would be very much appreciated because it very much helps out the channel. And of course, a huge thank you to those of you who help to make these videos possible through Patreon and support this channel to make this content possible. Thank you all so very much. And of course, a huge thank you to those of you who've been buying the shirts and so on, and the posters and cell phone cases and all of that as gifts for your family members. Really, it helps this channel. So thank you very much. And if you do get anything like a shirt or whatever, be sure to tag me on Instagram if you post a picture of yourself there. I love seeing these designs that I've created out in the wild. It's always such a kick to be able to get to see them. And of course, as always, I'm Rafael di Furia. Thank you so much for joining me on another Friday night. I look forward to seeing you all next time. Have a great one. Stay safe and stay healthy. Later.